William Hope Coin Harvey was a politician, a financial advisor, teacher, lawyer, and most importantly, an entrepreneur. He came to Northwest Arkansas in 1900 and purchased a 320 land tract at Silver Springs, and he built this resort. He wanted to create a place for people to come and visit the Ozarks, and he was looking for a location that wasn't very populated and didn't have a lot of rich people, and that's his quote, rich people. Found this location at Silver Springs, and he renamed it Monte Ne, which means mountain water. And his original dream was to build 5 hotels and at this resort. He only built 3, the last of which was Oklahoma Row. The first hotel was Hotel Monte Ne and Missouri Row. And so people would come on the train, like I said, and visit this place. He, in 1901, imported a Venetian gondola to Monte Ne. He flooded or dammed up the springs that were in the area, created this wonderful canal, and he used the gondola to carry folks from the train station to the hotel, and he promoted his resort saying that it's the only place in America where the gondola meets the train. And so it was this high-end resort where people would come and they would spend the entire summer. We're talking 3 or 4 months in the middle of the summer, and to get away from the heat, they would come in from the bigger cities, Chicago, St. Louis, and visit here. And so there was a big tourism industry that was sparred by Coin Harvey and his resort. Oklahoma Row was one of the 3 hotels that William Hope Harvey, or Coin Harvey as he was known, built at his Monte Ne resort back in the early 1900s. It was the final hotel. Oklahoma Row was built in 1910, and it had 40 rooms, 11 of which had their own bath and restroom. And it was also a place where grand balls were held and big events, and it was really the peak of the resort up through the 20s. People from all over the country would visit Monte Ne. They would come on the train, and then of course as automobiles became more prevalent throughout the 20s, they would start coming in cars as well. And so Monte Ne became this tourism attraction in Northwest Arkansas. And that's exactly what Coin Harvey had wanted to create with his resort. You can still see the log structure of Oklahoma Row. It is about a mile up the road on Highway 94, right before you get to Monte Ne Chicken Inn. And so, you know, there's still parts of that history that you can visibly see. It's just the tower itself was made out of cement, so you couldn't move it. It's starting to sag in the middle, and it's a log structure. In fact, the Missouri Row and the Oklahoma Row were the 2 largest log structures in the world when they were built. And they were also designed by local architect A.O. Clark, who designed many of the buildings we have in downtown Rogers today. Coin Harvey, as soon as his first hotel opened, he built a train spur from Lowell to Monte Ne in order to allow easier access to his resort. And so, yeah, he was all about getting people there as easily as possible. And he was one of the earlier proponents of transportation in Northwest Arkansas. He created the Ozark Trails Association in 1913, and the part of that association was to promote better roads, because the car started showing up in Rogers about 1910, and he realized that was the future, is automobile transportation. And so he wanted to create better roads from all over Northwest Arkansas and the Ozarks and beyond. In fact, he had proposed a turnpike from between Monte Ne and Muskogee, way back as early as 19 teens. He promoted his resort as a health resort. The mineral springs water would help cure anything that ails you. And people would come and, like I say, spend months taking in the waters of the Monte Ne springs and bathing in them. They even had the first indoor swimming pool in Arkansas at Monte Ne. And they also had tennis courts and the first golf course in Northwest Arkansas. He put us on the map as far as this area being somewhere, a destination in Arkansas. And so really we have a lot to thank to Mr. Harvey. Coin Harvey actually ran for president in 1932. And he ran as the Liberty Party. And it was an independent party, and his platform was on the Free Silver movement, which was trying to get the federal government to switch from gold standard to silver standard on its money. And he actually ran against FDR and came in 5th. So that was quite something for our Mr. Harvey. And again, it put Monte Ne and Northwest Arkansas on the national map and spotlight for his political campaign. It only lasted just shy of about 30 years. His first hotel opened in 1901, and he was bankrupt by the 30s. Didn't get to build his final 2 hotels, and he put all his final monies into the amphitheater, which was going to be the base of his pyramid obelisk, which was going to be a time capsule for civilizations of the future, because he knew that civilization was going to collapse at some point, and he wanted to provide any financial advice that he had to those future civilizations. And he actually researched the geography of Northwest Arkansas and figured out that this would be a very safe place for such a structure. We wouldn't have earthquakes or floods, and he was going to be able to build this 120-foot pyramid and put everything in it and as a safekeeping for the future. So he went bankrupt before his pyramid idea came about. He died a pauper in 1936. He actually sold it in the late 20s. Missouri Row and Oklahoma Row were sold to a theology school. And so it was their campus for a few years. And then by the 40s, it was a girls' school, Camp Joyzell. And it was a school up until the lake basically took over the area in the 60s. When the waters recede during drought conditions, you can still see the amphitheater, and a lot of the locals do refer to it as the pyramids just because that is where Coin Harvey was going to have his pyramid. It has become kind of its own draw in the area. People do love going out there and enjoying the scene. Before the lake went in, we do have photographs of some Coca-Cola advertisements. There were, teenagers having picnics around on the amphitheater, and of course Coke, prominently displayed. And so it's been used for different things throughout its history, and up and through recent years, it's almost become a pilgrimage site for locals to go at least once in their life just to see the Monte Ne ruins. I grew up in this area and have known about Monte Ne my entire life. I remember my parents, of course, taking us out to Monte Ne Chicken Inn and having lunch, and then we'd go out and see the ruins. So I grew up knowing about them and appreciating them. I think we have a lot of newcomers coming to the area, and there are, of course, folks that have been here 20, 30, 40 years, and still Monte Ne is not something that's as well known. That is, unless the lake levels go down and the amphitheater is visible, and then the news usually picks it up, and more people come to the museum asking about it and wanting to go out and see the historic site. But when the lake levels are up, that's hidden, and it's just not really something people think about or know to go out and look for. It wasn't until the lake went in the 60s, and then by the time that the waters had covered most of what was left of Monte Ne, it was the late 70s, early 80s, and since then it has become a place of vandalism and foul play by different age groups. I'm very sad to see it go, but it comes down to public safety really is the important thing here. We didn't want anyone to become hurt, injured by its existence, and that's what it has become, is a public safety hazard. I'm working with the Army Corps of Engineers to create signage that will be on site to inform people about what the history is at this location. That doesn't exist right now. So yeah, right now when you go out there, unless you know what you're looking at, you really don't understand or know what the history of that location is. So in this way, we are helping to better preserve the history of that site by creating this, this information that's going to be available there. Once they get it all cleared out, Oklahoma Row, that site will become, again, mostly nature will take over, and we'll have some signage and maybe a walking trail through the area. I will say that the most well-preserved thing that is out at Monte Ne is the amphitheater, and the reason for that is it's submerged under the water. It's been protected. The Corps is working very closely with the Shiloh Museum of Ozark History as well as the Rogers Historical Museum, and we're going to work together to not only preserve what we can, pieces of the tower to talk about within our own museums, but we also want to work with them to create the signage and things that will be actually on site the next phase of this project. We are going to make sure that this site is preserved and remembered for the future.